high ticket, the LCK #1 seed. That is what we are fighting for and playing for here. All 10 players reaching desperately for as we jump into this draft here for game #1.
How do they make it float?
Magnets.
Magic.
Oh, sorry.
Aren't magnets just magic?
Yes.
Effectively.
Nobody knows how those things work.
Nautilus ban here right away for its delight. They love their Nautilus Misfortune lanes, and Nautilus a little bit stronger on this patch. The Bard, of course, will be banned away from T1. That was the one thing that we didn't really agree with on the mock draft that we had earlier. Of course, that was the bans that were previously in their series. But I don't think Keria gets his hands on it, not only in this first game, but in this series. I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, some conversations I've had, even though the meta hasn't completely shifted because of the melee support changes, not enough to really upheave things. It has pushed Nautilus higher prio because he was already being played into some of these good matchups. He got a bit of a helping hand. Cassiopeia ban does come through. Pick that's been very successful in the LCK, been failing horribly in the LPL, funnily enough, but still seeing that ban priority here. Rumble and Karma, two of the big picks that are open available. T1, we knew they wanted to prioritize that bot lane 2v2. They will instantly slam down that Karma for Keria. I feel like for HLE, there's a danger playing into Ezreal Karma. If you leave the Ezreal available, they're going to prioritize the Jayce, though, for Zeus, and not even give a look in towards the Ezreal. Jayce, Ryze come in, solo lane priority, and T1 have plenty of choice in terms of AD carry pairings with this Karma.
I'm most curious to see also, I mean, they could just go for Karma Ezreal, the really common one, which I think they're going to do. But will they just give Doran the keys to the Yorick counter pick here in the top lane right away? Or do they want to prioritize jungle here and we'll have a bit of a split? Because this is quite common when one team goes for the bottom duo, the other team locks up strong blind solo lane. So that's the split that we do have here now. The question is, does a counter pick come through here? Or with all these jungle picks open, the Jarvan, the Xin, is that where Oner's priority is going to go? Is he going to get his hands on the Zins out here in game 1? They do need engage so far in this comp. That's what they're sorely missing.
Yeah, especially playing these mobile solo laners of the Jayce's long-range poke. I think having engage would go a long way. Xin Zhao sinks well the shields, but Jarvan, especially when they can't go Ezreal, has that lockdown, that Cataclysm, a lot of value. They go for the Sion instead, prioritizing that into the Jayce, a pick that Doran's had a lot of success on. I felt like there was maybe an angle to leave it because there's Sion, Yorick, and Cassante as answers, but they prioritize him having that matchup now. Of HLE, do they just take a jungle in this situation? You can't pair up your bot lane, so it can be tricky, but instead looking towards the Ziggs for Gumayusi here.
Wow. I mean, just last year, this was a pick that we weren't ready to trust Guma to be able to play to a high level, compared to our best Ziggs, but he has really turned it around. It's one of his better picks, actually. And they're just going to lock it in right away to be able to have some sort of oomph in this bottom 2v2. I like the choice. I like the boldness of it. There's so much poke, but also consistent damage with the Ryze pick in mid.
Yeah, definitely a composition for HD that wants to play a longer range. We often see the Ziggs paired with setup. So things like Ziggs Pike have been popular into enchanters like hill pressure. Expect to see T1 banning away some of those options. It is going to be a lane, though, where you are going to get pushed in heavily. Ziggs needs mana items and some points in his queue, but we can really match the pressure, especially level 1 from Ezreal Karma. And for T1, secure and engage is such a big thing here. So the Nocturne going to be banned away. Actually, it's T1 not going for support bans, but taking away the Vi, which we know Kanavi's been very successful on. But taking that away from him is something that can set up the Ziggs or even the Jayce to follow up with that poke onto a target who's held in place.
I do think these jungle bans, particularly for both of these players, make a ton of sense. The base already went heavily on the Kanavi's vibe, but the Oner Nocturne was also mentioned. So those are the two big ones. But now we could see potentially some indexing into support for T1 in this final ban, as the Lee Sin for Oner will also be taken away. Not necessarily a consistent form of engage, but a pick that gets a lot of backline access against this range, so it could be a great answer there. Pike, you mentioned, we've seen often Leona with the Ziggs in the past, maybe not on this patch, but it is a little bit better than it used to be. We'll see what they do decide to opt in for taking away from Keria. Banning against Keria is always tough, because he's always got something else that, is in his wheelhouse, so they ultimately do decide to take away Kanavi's Nefiri.
They just fully commit to the jungle bans in this situation. And Kanavi could snap something up here if he really wants. He's going to go for that Jarvan. Even though it's into the Ezreal,
And also, there's the Trundle angle potentially in this draft. You know, it's not amazing with what they have in terms of engage and setup, but they are playing into a Sion. Opting, though, for this Jarvan.
I think this works well as a denial, even though obviously into the Ezreal doesn't feel fantastic, but they end up pivoting and instead go for the Camille. So Camille support in this situation, pairs well with the Ziggs. You put the ults on top of each other, effective there. And I think it's tricky to do this, but level 1 with Ignite, you can actually challenge. If you land the stun, you Ignite, use Hail of Blades, you can challenge some matchups, but I don't think they'll probably look for it here. We'll just be pressured out.
Yeah, Anivia is such a tricky pick with this draft. It's the one I think we all expected to see when it wasn't banned away, when we saw the indexing towards jungle instead, because it's a common counter pick to the Ryze. But the laning phase can be tricky to pilot, and it's not consistent engage. You have to wall incredibly well. You can set up the Sion with the wall, you can set up the Ezreal if you can cut the team in half, but it is a very hard draft to play Anivia. So Faker, a lot of confidence with this pick to come through. And we'll see what Oner's pick is here ultimately. Might just end up being the Xin. Take the Jarvan.
Yeah.
This has been a weaker pick for him compared to Kanavi especially. He's actually 2 and 3 on it. A pick that he shies away from compared to other junglers.
I think the engage was the important thing here, securing something that can close the distance, especially when you have that Anivia, who's obviously very good at playing defensive. When you're playing into the likes of a Ryze and a Jayce, and the enemy team has that long-range poke they can set up for, I think having that engage is important. The Trundle's going to have a good amount of value here, though, playing into that Sion in particular. I feel like for T1, a lot of power in that bot lane 2v2. We know they're going to play through bot. They've been doing that all season long, and they have the tools to do so. But when it gets to those team fights, they have that one... They have the top jungle who can find engage options, but they have a lot of poke to be dealing with on the other side, and Trundle can make things really difficult for a Sion to operate in those 5v5s.
I like the draft of T1 a little bit more because I think it offers a lot of frontline for that poke. It has a clear identity in terms of its zoning because it also has a decent amount of range, right? It has the Ezreal there, and it is very powerful into the Trundle. The Trundle is great into Sion, can set up some of that poke, right, with the pillar. But when the Trundle gets caught, he doesn't have any mobility. He gets walled by the Anivia. He's just a sitting duck a lot of the time. So you really need to be landing that poke before the fight breaks out. Otherwise, getting those objectives, I think, is so hard here for HLE.
I think it's also going to be so important that Jayce is really far ahead, because if Jayce falls behind, we've seen that happen sometimes, not as much with Zeus, but in general, if this Sion gets strong, he can just stand there and soak all of the poke up. You need the Jayce to be ahead of the curve and to be relevant in this game, or it is just going to be T1's to take.
Well, I feel like in terms of drafts so far, it's pretty straightforward here in game number 1 as we head into our first one for this best of 5. Alrighty, game number 1. This best of 5 determines our first seed into MSI. Here at the road to MSI, as Faker's already getting it going here at level 1, as he oftentimes does on the Anivia. Has been a key pick for him, I feel like, especially towards the tail end of, well, I guess for all of round 2, I suppose. He has been fantastic on this pick, and I do like it as a comfort pick, especially into the Ryze early on for Faker.
You see Zeka getting down a ward onto Oner's Raptors, very wary of the potential early gank that can come through. We've seen some of those from Jarvan just immediately beelining towards mid, especially with an Anivia in combo, very easy to set that up. Some good dodges there from Gumayusi and Delight.
Faker often uses his egg as a resource. We talk about this a lot. We call it the Faker egg. In the laning phase here, we'll just go straight down to it. Huge cheer comes through, though, because Zeka ends up getting a majority of his health bar in post.
Yeah, he's getting pretty low. I mean, Zeka, at the end of the day, though, is not going to be able to finish him off, and that's really what you're looking for, but he has flash.
He hits level 3. I think he could just flash on him, honestly.
Yeah. Baker's going to have to be careful about that.
Baker does have teleport, and Zeka, okay,
a gank down on the bottom side as there is Peyz with the Arcane Shift away, but now the flash forward with the satchel means that Peyz has to flash out, and he lives! Even though Kanavi tries to flash, and for the kill, it is not enough.
They commit so heavily, so many resources put into that play, but I love the positioning from T1 in the lane. and they had Keria playing so far back, the Ezreal up forward, so the Arcane Shift and the Flash is just enough to get him out of range, to get him to safety. 2 flashes burned by HLE and that Ignite, so even though Peyz loses his summoners, he's still an Ezreal, he still has the Arcane Shift, he's going to be okay.
No, he doesn't die, but the damage is still done. Obviously, the Ziggs is going to be able to teleport straight back to the lane. They ended up getting some extra damage done here. Some farm was denied for Peyz. He's a wave behind right now, so still mission successful, but had they gotten the kill, it would have felt so much stronger. Even though they committed double flash, I think this is something that HLE will not feel too bad about. Faker also recovers from losing his egg because he has TP, gets straight back to the lane. Early game is even. Here we have Oner rotating around.
Yeah, we're roaming down here. Guma in a rough spot as the satchel's already down. He is just a sitting duck as Delight is not able to interrupt Oner getting in there. This should be first blood. The question is, who does it go to? They hand it over to Peyz as he starts off strong on the Ezreal.
And it's just perfect timing for a gang to get Peyz back into the game, capitalizing on the fact that Guma bit his flash in the earlier gank. They get to shove this wave in, maybe even get a plate on the back of it as well, and it is Peyz who picked up that kill, importantly enough.
Yeah, really huge moment here for T1, pushing them into a 400 gold lead off of the first blood alone. As Faker is just going to be slightly annoyed here by Kanavi. So nothing really in return. Delight tried his best to try to alter the course of that bottom side dive with his little hook shot there, tries to prevent the follow-up, but just ultimately not able to do anything. And with Satchel down, there's an easy gank for Oner on that Xin, or excuse me, Jarvan.
Yeah, I think just with how deep Gumayusi was in the lane, I just think there's no way you get out unless T1 massively misplayed it. So early ganks coming in into the bot lane already from both sides, which isn't too unexpected in this situation. Zeka's been doing pretty good in this mid lane matchup. We saw him getting those heavy trades earlier, but going to be able to pick up a plate here as well. And the top side, Zeus has that early pressure into the matchup against Sion, but Doran's doing pretty fine, all things considered.
Yeah, I feel like, especially nowadays, with a lot of Ryze players having to play into Anivia over and over, they've kind of realized that as long as they can get through the early parts of the game, get a couple of items online, the Anivia damage isn't really that much, so as long as you're not being camped by the jungle, you actually have, you know, good pushing power, especially before the Anivia is level 6. And a lot of our Ryze players have been, I feel like, thriving, especially early on in the matchup up against Anivia. Obviously, the Anivia, once she gets going, gets a couple of items, maybe 3 in the team fights, can be extremely annoying, and that's what Faker's going to be looking for.
A lot of burst potential in the Anivia if you can isolate a target with your wall in team fights. As Zeka,
he's running on into this one. Faker's not going to die this time, but I mean, even the ticking damage from the Deathfire touch, Faker's really having a rough time even just surviving.
Yeah,
doesn't have his ult.
Yeah, no ult, no TP. He's in a really dire spot. Zeka's low on mana, but it's a Ryze. He still has a decent amount.
No stun.
Yeah, the stun is down, the ghost is up, but the auto doesn't finish him off, and Zeka nearly he retakes the aggro from the Deathfire touch. A big mistake from Zeka. Faker's laughing his way to the bank.
By the way, Faker's passive was coming up in just a few seconds. I think Faker knew he was playing with him. He was trying to bait him in, and Zeka took the bait, hook, line, and sinker, but the re-aggro on the turret, a huge mistake.
I just feel like it goes through your mind. You're like, oh, the burn might kill him, but then he doesn't register the burn. I shouldn't get on the tower. Zeka gets a little bit too greedy there, and this is a great route back into the lane for Faker, who honestly has been struggling in these early levels. And now, he was level 5 there, he's up to level 7.
The second Faker Qs, you're like, I'm going in, right? He doesn't have stun, he doesn't have the peel, I think I have the damage. He's like, I got him. By the way, Faker's super cool about it the whole way through. I made a mistake, he says. And the crowd roars behind him. Faker now with a gold lead in a matchup that felt really, really like he was falling significantly far behind in.
I think part of it, not to make excuses for Zeka, but we've had so many years of phase rush Ryze, and maybe not quite used to Deathfire touch on the Ryze in that situation.
Yeah, it's not very often Ryze builds anything that burns, except obviously in recent patches with the Deathfire touch. And yeah, so now Faker's in a totally fine spot. We take a look at all the other lanes and where they're at. The Jayce is still doing well. The bottom lane is winning for T1 as we have seen, as Keria is going to have to flash away, and that's a nice pillar to deny any kind of follow-up there onto Delight. So they collect the flash of Keria at least.
And I think Keria is going to quite frequently be a point that HLE can look to target, being that he has to be the primary warder and he is playing Karma. If his flash is down and you're playing into Trundle or Camille, these are picks that can really capitalize on that effectively. And being flashless means you just have to take safer routes when you're trying to rotate, or you have to play a lot more careful when you're trying to get vision down. Delight looking for an aggressive play on the top lane.
Doran has ult and flash, though.
I don't really know what they're going to look for here outside of a little bit of harass. I mean, this is a Sion that just has plated steel caps, but with the shield and level 7, he's totally fine. So it feels like Delight is looking to do something on the map. Although the knockback is going to come through here, and now Delight gets in there, and Doran does get outplayed there. That is going to be the kill going to Delight.
A little bit of trickery there. Coming back for the late re-engage. Doran, I don't think, expected that, and will cost him his life. He tries to flash and still ends up dying. Delight flashing is not, I mean, it's not like he doesn't want to have flash on this Camille, but I think it's absolutely worth it. Now Doran being flashless in this Jayce matchup means repeat ganks could be a possibility. Speaking of, we do have Oner down here. I don't think he's going to be committing to anything, even with Keria in the area. But, all right, a big punch back here for HLE.
Agree, a big pickup considering that I feel like HLE having Delight on the top side, playing towards Zeus is obviously beneficial, but a big focus was getting those grubs anyway. Getting the kill on top of that is just the icing on the cake. We did see grubs buffed on this patch, so even stronger now. And when you have this Jayce who's already strong, definitely something powerful buff to set him up with.
Not to mention the Ziggs, obviously, who's incredibly strong at taking out turrets.
Yeah.
Kanavi felt like he was seen, just based on the positioning of Doran, because if he gets in there, lands a pillar, maybe we only have the ult available for Doran, as there's the ult, it's down, and now the Subjugate comes in, and he's basically made a paper. This is what the Trundle is so good at doing. They punish Doran once again.
Honestly,
That's what I was talking about, you know, the follow-up gank here, pretty easy to set up. You got the Subjugate, and down he goes, and Oner's just trying to protect this turret, but so much money is going to go over. The grubs are here. Zeus picks up additional plate gold, and now this is a 1,000 gold lead, and Zeus is going to have to be the saving grace here for HLE. They played through him. Let's see what he can get done.
We wanted the Jayce to be strong, and he is very strong at this point, so Zeus in a phenomenal spot. I feel like in that gank, Kanavi's pillar placement was not even ideal. It was not cutting off Doran, but with the Subjugate, the damage is just there, and if Doran starts falling behind into a composition that has so much damage and a Subjugate, it's going to be so hard to play these team fights. You step up, a pillar's behind you, you can't ult out, your stats get drained, you get deleted, and suddenly T1's front-to-back ideas go out the window.
Yeah, got to be careful. I feel like Sion oftentimes is picked as safety, someone who can get through the lane, eventually gets very tanky, but it feels real bad when he's just sitting there giving over free gold to the enemy team. Is now Faker in a very awkward spot here, trying to wall his way out of the situation. Probably going to have to flash with the Camille coming over. Flashes long to get away from this one, and now Delight trying to get on the edge, and he gets in to the Realm Warp, and Delight will survive with the help of Zeka.
Oh, the placement was perfect. Just a little bit of the Realm Warp inside the Cataclysm to get him out, and Zeka keeps clear so they can't CC him to cancel. I thought he was just dead in that situation, but a great save there from Zeka.
Very clean. Faker in such an awkward spot as well, right? To have to flash because there's no mid-prio for him to run to, but he doesn't get the flash off successfully. They try to turn it on the play, but the Realm Warp is very cool. And as a result, you know, it's one flash down here for T1, HLE burning nothing. So very successful there outside of the Realm Warp, of course. Dragon, meanwhile, goes to T1. They have double Dragon here, but it's Ocean Soul on the other side, which can feel quite nice into a poke composition in this situation.
All right, we got Peyz in top and bot. They're trying to punish Guma, who already flashed, and they don't have a whole lot of CC, and now Delight comes in, picks up one, gets the ult down onto Peyz, as immediately now we got a TP coming in. T1 trying to double down on this one, but Peyz already pretty low. And they're just trying to hold on to the wave. I don't know if they can really go for a redive here.
I don't think so. And now Zeka is just going to be able to push mid freely. Zeus has control of the top side, and Hanwha Life eSports are swinging into a pretty big gold lead here.
Such a huge win for HLE. Gumayusi doing a phenomenal job there of evading the initial dive. Delight slides in to save him, and then the map impact is just crushing T1 right now. Gold lead for the team expands to 2,000. Gumayusi just slides away with the Satchel will get poked down a bit there, but it's not too much of a concern.
He doesn't even care.
Yep. I mean, Gumayusi's played this role for HLE many times before, have to be on the weak side, and he does it so well there.
This is why I think a lot of the, the Jayce, I believe, is 6-0 on this Jayce pick. It's because they play through him, right? Unlike a lot of other Jayces, and they leave Guma on this island, right? Guma has the flash here initially, and now he's like, all right, I've done it. The wave is thinned out. Delight comes over, and he's like, let's fight this. And they absolutely do. They can play through the turret. And they know that on the other side of the map they're winning. They know that in the mid lane they're winning.
Look at live what we got going on here. Zeus is in a lot of trouble as he's kind of been baited in by Doran, honestly. He's trying to dodge everything, goes for the kill, but Oner is still going to pick it up at the end of the day. Oner pretty fed in his own right.
Yeah, you saw the Ziggs ult coming in trying to help get that kill on the Doran, but I don't think it was quite in range to really connect there. So a nice pickup from T1. They're still in this game, very much so, but that Jayce is going to continue being a problem. Also, we've seen this tech many times before, the Serpent's Fang rush into Sion, but the value in this game in general is massive with a Jarvan and a Karma in the game as well. They're just trying to go aggressive here on Doran and just doesn't quite have the damage to cut through him quickly enough before Oner shows up.
Yeah, you can see the pings coming over. They kind of realize, oh, okay, this is what's happening. Doran sells this really well. Makes it look like he's just thinking he can actually kind of have a fight with Zeus here. And Zeus just wants to continue this pressure and prio. And then Oner shows up. And it was clearly planned 2 steps ahead there for T1. And they end up getting a small win there on killing the Jayce, putting him down a little bit here, but so much money over to Oner.
And now this is a situation, though, that you can feel really comfortable in with the very fed Jayce in one side lane, the Ryze another, and you just set up the Ziggs mid. And he's just going to clear waves endlessly. Even though Ezreal typically so strong at this point in the game at playing through mid prio, he will be able to push the wave in, but Ziggs will just clear it out before you can really make much off the advantage.
Yeah, so they can just kind of sit back, rest on their Jayce, who is very fed, their Ziggs that's surviving, and the Ryze that is scaling. Does feel like, as long as they can poke past the Sion and the fed Jarvan, they should be eating pretty well, as now Faker's in a bit of trouble here himself. Doesn't have the flash. He's just going to be put down to egg, and Oner's there, but he just has to watch his mid laner die as Zeka, hiding on bush, gets the last laugh.
There's just not a whole lot that T1 can play through right now because their mid lane is an Ezreal that hasn't hit his 2-item spike into a wave-clearing Ziggs. Grubs went over to HLE, and these 2 dragons for T1 feel super low value in exchange with the game state right now. The side lane pushes that are super strong. They guarantee this Herald here. Zeka's already putting work down on this inner, and it very quickly starts to feel like if T1 can't force a fight here soon and try to get this Ezreal online, HLE are just going to run away with this game because they have too much control. And here, T1 are trying to bait a pick onto Zeka, but Kanavi is in the bush, and he springs the trap first. And even with this egg here, Faker is just going to be abandoned by Oner.
I feel like Kanavi finds his way into these lane brushes so often, sneaks his way in, and is just patiently waiting there for his opportunity. And Faker, so often when he dies in the side lane, the typical T1 mantra is Faker dies, but we got all this in return. In this instance, as you said, not able to convert it into anything. 20 seconds on that Dragon third of the game. As you said before, Ocean not the highest value, but into this poke, still a decent amount.
It's all they've got to hang their hat on here in this game, besides the small Ezreal lead, right? But that doesn't necessarily matter. The rest of the map is in shambles, and if you can't get Prio to poke with your Ezreal, and they have the better poke anyways with Ziggs and Jayce, it is going to feel really tricky. T1, you could opt to just leave this Dragon, but I think the value of having Soul Point is going to be enough for them to commit heavily. We do have Zeka with his ult in the bottom lane.
Yeah, it looks like they want to collapse. Might be a little bit late, though, as the damage already done to the Dragon. Kanavi just going to walk up, not going to get the smite, though, as Delight gets in, locks down Peyz, who gets pulled back in, and everything in the kitchen sink is thrown in the face of the one-fed member of T1. And that'll be just more gold in the pockets of HLE now.
Charge of the Herald into the mid lane, Satchel to secure, and T1 are falling apart at the seams here.
You can see he's trying to avoid the wall there with that drift up to the top side, and this push continues. Kanavi is going to have to flash, but I think that's a small price to pay for what they've got in this play.
Yeah, the second charge puts the tower not quite low enough to satchel, but pretty close there. Oh, Keria could be in trouble.
Wow. And even like a fadeaway satchel, just saying, okay, maybe, you know, it gets a little bit lower with the minions. It is pretty close, but they're just getting so much gold on the map right now.
When you have this Camille composition that HLE have, you can make a choice to both give a dragon, but also commit to the dragon and get exit kills, which is exactly what they do here. They double TP, right? Or they have the double TP coming top side here. They use the Herald at the same time, so they're like, we're going to get something out of this no matter what. But it's the flash here from Delight onto Peyz, pulls him back in with a Realm Warp angle. They don't even need it, but they are so ready for 3 different ways to punish this team. The Herald, the Camille Flash, the Realm Warp. They're like, yeah, T1, you got your prize, but we are going to get so much more. And that has been the story of this HLE Game 1 here. You got the Dragon, we got everything else.
And now with mid tower gone, it feels like T1 have to push so much deeper to contest these neutral objectives. When you have a composition like this, when you have the likes of the Pillar, of the Hextech Ultimatum, it's going to be difficult to disengage from unfavorable situations. With this gold deficit, most situations are going to be unfavorable for T1 right now. We do have Peyz coming up on that big item spike with the mirror mana being stacked soon, but it just doesn't feel nearly as significant as it could be in this state of game.
I wonder if now for T1 the game plan is completely shifted and you start thinking about your Anivia wave clear and you start thinking about giving up a few dragons and you start thinking about maybe, you know, we contest for some barons later on, but we're just going to have to let everything go from here on out, just try to defend our turrets. Because trying to force fights and start fights at this game state, 3,000 gold behind, into this Fed Ryze, right, the Jayce is insanely ahead. It just doesn't feel realistic at this point.
The problem as well is that you're playing where your engage is mostly the Jarvan and maybe the Sion, but Sion is playing into the likes of a Trundle who can pillar to interrupt his engage. And the Jarvan, when you look at the other side, all 3 carries on HLE have flashes.
They're trying to get Oner here. I mean, even a TP going to be committed to as everybody trying to come over and help them, but Al Faker gets baited into this one, but he will be okay. Actually, just walks it off. Zeka also using both summoners. And they've got to respond to the top push. We also have a Satchel in bot as HLE. They don't get any kills, but they're still getting more map gold.
This is a great macro game from HLE. This is also the type of game that we've been talking about kind of tangentially to this, where we've seen HLE pull back the aggression a little bit and play through the map, play a little bit slower, choke people out, and this is another example of that type of game where it's not just Kanavi dives repeatedly. They play the Trundle, they know their win cons, they play through the top lane, they let Guma sit weak, and suddenly the gold lead is just so immense, and T1 has so little options. And T1 opts for that little scrap, and it costs them most of a top inner turret.
I mean, you look
at the grubs here.
How much play gold Zeus has gotten. The fact that they got those 3 grubs for him, the Ziggs being here as well who can help with tower pushing, but just Zeus has been absolutely on a tear this game, and this Jayce, so hard to deal with. When you're playing outside of the Ezreal, a shorter range composition, it's a minute until that next dragon. They did at least get the flash from Zeka in that situation, but when I was talking about the 3 carries of HLE, he is the bulkiest by far, and if you do Cataclysm him, they don't have the most amazing damage follow-up to just burst through him. If he survives, you're in a really bad spot. Ideally, you would have loved to get Zeus' flash, and then take him out of the fight immediately, remove all that gold, and be in with much better odds. We'll have to see how T1 play this one. That Cataclysm is such an important ability.
Yeah, keep in mind this Jayce was prio pick, the first pick for HLE from the second pick side, obviously. And Zeus is one of the guys that's always gone back to this pick, even when we saw so many counters into this, you know, the Sion, the Yorick, the Cassante, you know, what have you, so many different options for teams. But, you know, T1 say, okay, we'll play the Sion, we'll deal with this, but the amount of help that Zeus got, the fact that he was already winning the lane, it's all just ballooned into some problem that T1 cannot handle. And speaking of which, Faker walking up and nearly dying is going to flash away, as now the front to back is here for the side of T1, but they're very much playing tail between the legs. That is going to be a missed shock blast, though, so maybe a chance for them to enter, but we'll see if they even want to fight this.
I don't think so. I think you got to just try to cut your losses and get a little bit of a dent on this turret. But Zeus,
they're going in onto Zeus, as not sure if he's baiting or what. Just now Doran going to charge on in, but he's in a bit of trouble. Has to flash away himself. Zeka on the chase, looking for more. There's the pillar into the roots from the Ryze, as T1 just trying to kite this one out. Even a TP coming in from Faker as he looks for more. The stun is going to miss as now the shock blast comes in, and it's just missiles flying both directions, but nobody dying.
Very close there, honestly, for Keria going down. A lot of summoners burned. Dragon Gun and HLE isn't of a major concern, and even though the game state is still bad for T1, Zeus and Gumayusi's flash has been burned. I feel like this is the window they've been looking for to be able to actually make their way back in with a fight. If you can find a window to engage on those targets, then maybe.
It's so impressive that T1 get anything out of this, right? Because Zeus is here to clear the wave, right? They try to collapse onto him, it's unsuccessful. And then Keria ends up eating so much damage. As you can see, Oner is just kind of off on the side, hoping maybe there'll be an overextension. Maybe there's an opportunity, right? He's just waiting. But HLE don't really give it here. Baker gets the flash out of Guma, which is big. But T1 are like, we got to give up the dragon. We'll get something in return. They really get nothing in terms of the turret. But we're able to at least get those critical flashes, so maybe the next time they're given that opportunity, it'll be a real advantage. His Delight is also made of paper.
Yeah, he is able to buffer that pretty nicely to get out. Now could look for the re-engage as they're looking for Faker, who doesn't have his flash. Nice peel here from Oner, just trying to get his mid laner to safety, but he's going to be the one that pays the iron price at the end of the day. And that will be one kill going the way of HLE so far.
So rough. Oner trying to save his mid laner, goes down as the jungler. You're so much more important now. Baron on the cards for HLE. T1 trying to contest, but taking so much poke.
Yeah, the poke is kind of insane. I mean, Doran just trying to lead the charge here, trying to force them to turn, and that they will, but HLE able to dispose of him pretty quickly. Although at the end of the day, they're not able to restart the Baron just yet. That's more poke on a Keria, though. And they say, okay, let's go for it once again. As really, it's up to Peyz to try to poke some back here. He's got a red buff. They don't really have much vision, though. As maybe, I think someone was wrapping around. I think that's why we're not being shown the vision from the top side of this fight. Peyz and T1 feeling the pressure, though, as that is going to be Peyz hopping away. And he gets to safety, but HLE get the Baron.
Peyz wasn't able to land enough poke there, I think, for the challenge. And he was so scared to step up. The placement of the bombs from Guma on the ground really preventing them from getting to that Baron as quickly as they would have liked to. This all starts with Delight being a potential caught target here, but Faker is unable to wall him away. Now his wall is down and he's vulnerable. Oner has to bail him out. And now you don't have access to the Baron. You don't have a jungler. The poke is saying, look, again, the bombs here in this choke point. T1 have to wait that out, which means Peyz is only the one who can offer damage when Doran goes in. And as you can see here, he hits 1 Q on the Delight, and that's it. Nothing else really to speak of. And so the Baron goes over. Hanwha Life eSports, 6,600 gold ahead.
To me, the control from HLE, the setup around the Sion, the satchel into blocking the ult, and also when Oner went in, the immediate ult from Delight so he couldn't flag and drag out. They're controlling the members of T1 so well, and whenever anyone is overextended, giving so little chance to escape. And now with this massive lead and Baron in hand, it's going to be almost impossible to stand up the siege. Yes, Faker's wave clear, but look at the poke.
Yeah, and also the fact that the pillar comes in and stops his ult. So you're already dealing with trying to clear Baron waves, but you can't when there's a Trundle.
Doran just TP'd in for the massive shield, and he got Serpent's Fanged. It's just gone.
Yeah, see you later, Mr. Shield, as you can see T1 desperately trying to find an engage here, but it has been clean from the side of HLE so far.
And it's a Ziggs comp with 3 grubs. If you've got great wave clear, but if he touches the turret, you're not having any of it. You're not gonna. Your turret's gonna just disappear. So they do buy a decent amount of time here. Hanwha Life eSports are gonna go for a reset. So if you're watching this, hoping for a T1 comeback, the good news is the base isn't open yet. The bad news is everything else. And Peyz still has a gold.
You're not really selling it there.
Peyz still has a gold lead, right? He's on 3 items. Faker's soon to have his 3rd as well.
Oh.
They're gonna Realm Warp for a play here.
Yeah, and once again, Oner's like, man, I might have to try to bail you out again, but there's no bailing this out as the Realm Warp play from Zeka is excellent.
The snap plays from HLE this game have just been so good, so intelligent, such good reads of the map. Kanavi might be in trouble here.
And he is Trundle, but you know, he's never really had to burn his flash.
Yep.
So he just uses it there, and I mean, there's not really much that T1 can do to use a Trundle flash.
30 seconds left on the Baron. And I think T1 will not lose the inhibitor tower at this point. So the game is in a dire spot, but I guess that's a silver lining for now at least.
Yeah,
the Dragon
selling
gonna
it
go
well too, yeah.
yeah, I'm trying. Doing my best.
This Hexplate Trundle is super interesting as well. I really like this build because it's going to give you your subjugate all the time, and he keeps just using it on whoever is seen and caught. It's obviously amazing into the Sion, but it's great into the Jarvan as well. If you could find him, he just dies instantly, basically, when he's trying to go in. So you say, well, you engaged on us, but who did you catch? You caught the Ryze, who's super tanky, who has Seraphs. You die. Good try. And every single time Oner has to try to go in, he has to think twice about what it's going to mean into this Trundle pick that's got its ult up all the time.
Yeah, and this comp from the side of HLE is so win more as well because you have so much catch potential with the Camille. Like, Delight can always go like 10 out of 10 aggro onto Peyz if he really needs to because he knows the follow-up will be there. And, I mean, you know, the follow-up damage from the Ziggs, the Ryze, everybody that's ahead. We take a look at the difference in the gold and the damage in the top lane. It's actually kind of disgusting. Almost 5 times the damage done here by Zeus. And yes, it is the Sion, but, I mean, that's a huge impact so far from Zeus.
We got some big item buyers coming in as well. Gumayusi just picked up the Void stuff. We got Sterak's for Delight. We got Deadman's Plate for Kanavi. We already had Actualizer earlier for Zeka, but I think on the back of these, HLE feels so strong. If someone oversteps from T1, they're already in a position to fight, but they will be hunting now to push forward the pace of the game.
That they just keep killing on repeat with pillar setups is even not safe, right? And the wave clear Faker has doesn't mean that he just gets to actually push the side lane into this draft. They just can only play defensively. They can only catch waves. And eventually, sure, if we get to 35 minutes plus, 40 minutes in this game, T1 will have a fighting chance as that Goldie means less and less. But this is not D plus KT. You know, this is not that kind of game. I don't think HLE are going to mess this up. They've made all the right decisions here with this lead. They have been so oppressive. Like, this means nothing to them. Nice try, Faker.
Well, it keeps the control wood alive for now, at least. That's a victory. We're taking that.
Small wins are still wins.
Yeah. Little by little.
Actualizer picked up for Faker, you know?
See Zeus pushing the top wave and now recalling to group up with the team, so now have all members grouped together. You can see setting up this vision, they're looking.
Wow, going in on a Keria, actually. This is very aggro to try to kill the support, and yeah, they do get him, but Delight immediately trades everything. Tons of damage though on Oner! Misses his flash! And now he's just barely going to get away for now, but Zeus is going very deep, gets stunned up against the wall, and Zeus going too hard, gets taken down.
I think T1 got a little lucky there, but also this was the moment I said probably we weren't going to be seeing in this game where maybe a little patience is lost because Hanwha Life eSports have such a lead, but they weren't happy to just sit back and say, well, we'll just wait for that Baron to spawn and look for a turn there. They end up losing 2 critical members, though, before the Baron spawns, and now don't have that strong foothold they had moments before. As Keria, Delight's like, you can't clear this ward. I'm not going to allow it, but he's not alone. He has basically the whole team here. And the trade initially looks great. Oner messes up this flash, which is a bit of a tragedy, but baits them in. And T1 are on that Baron I was just talking about. You get these 2 kills, and suddenly you've got a window back in the game.
And so much of the gold is on Zeus as well. They take him out, and now Kanavi has to try to come in here and steal. And the subjugate is keeping him alive, but now actually going to trade his life with Peyz, but more damage is coming out here. Good massive ult from Doran, but the follow-up not there just yet. They finally take out Zeka, though. They haven't dealt with Guma as Delight goes in, and now Zeus is back. TP's into the fight, and T1 are super low. Trying to get away, and a shot blast barely going to miss, but HLE at least able to clean up this Baron try.
T1 saw their window back in the game and did everything they could to try and find it, but HLE able to force them off the Baron, force them away, and with the respawn of Zeus, get them away from the purple worm. But it was a delicate point of the game. You got to feel. We see with this fight starting off here, they're playing blocker on Kanavi. He survives for a while. But Peyz plays so aggressive and just gets deleted, trying to clean up the jungler. And in the ensuing fight, without his damage, it's so hard.
If Peyz lives, it's a totally different fight. Faker's so low on mana, as you guys could see. Even though he has his egg, you know, he just cannot afford to stick around any longer. They have to just leave Doran out. Now, they are in live trying to take Baron. Kanavi has respawn, but he isn't here yet, and Faker's back with full mana.
They're not doing a good job of tanking this, but I think the poke of Guma might be too much, as that's a bit of damage coming on in, and a smite secure should be there from Kanavi. Waits until 1,000 health, and he's able to pick it up. It looked a little bit dicey, but at the end of the day, they're far enough ahead. There's not enough of a contest from T1, so HLE pick up their second Baron of the game.
Yeah, I also think that Faker and Keria without flashes can't really approach the Baron itself, so we're kind of just poking over the wall, but they don't have that much range, so we're able to do a ton now. T1 are trying to get that early on Dragon and get control of the area, set up and lock down the space. You can see Zeka looking for a flank angle here.
And they're trying to go and look for a turn, maybe a kill on a Kanavi, try to get something out. As big damage already. Look at this, and the flank comes in, but they turn immediately on a Zeka. Big shield on him, but they take down the Ryze. And now trying to kite this one front to back is T1. In goes Oner, has a GA. The Light is able to take down the Ezreal, and that is so much of the damage here. But now Kanavi goes down, Faker's still alive. Zeus slowed up. He's gonna get stunned next to the Dragon, and it's chaos. Nobody can deal with the Sion, actually. And now the long-range poke comes in, and T1 are winning a fight down 7,000 gold. They're gonna take the Ocean Soul. And Guma's done 7,000 damage, but he's all alone. Just a sad little Ziggs with his back against the Sion. Is able to take out Oner, funnily enough, but a small prize as Doran picks up a massive sack of gold.
Doran's their final form on this Sion, and I think the mistake here was Zeka approaching on this flank with no flash available. T1 see him, and immediately Oner turns onto him. And even as bulky as he is, he still goes down.
The thing I think they were thinking was, I got enough damage with this Actualizer Ryze. Once the ult comes down from Guma, I wipe them. Like, he's thinking, I'm going to clean them up so fast, but he doesn't. He gets poked, but just basically collapsed on there and blown up. T1 snap, engage, and turn the focus the second he shows on vision there. And then, like you said, there just isn't enough damage to cut through this Sion anymore. As Guma plays this really well, he plays it as best as he can.
Oh, we got another pick here, by the way. Zeka, he runs out, doesn't have any time, and Zeka again, unfortunately, has been a bunch of errors in this game that have really put his team in a bad spot, and now T1, all of a sudden, they're pushing mid. This is the same game where they were 8,000 gold behind, 2 Barons to HLE. And you said it before, Wolf, they didn't break into the base. They really didn't break the backs of T1. And T1 have been in this position before where they're just waiting for the enemy team to make mistakes, and we have seen quite a few of them here.
Ziggs being used defensively now. Poke missing there from Zeus as well. And with the Ocean Soul, they're feeling so much safer against that poke.
Oh, Doran looking for it, trying to get the flank Oner, but so many knockups. They get the kill on the Ziggs. They're looking for more. As down will go Oner. A lot of damage from the turret going on at T1, but at the end of the day, they have the Karma shields. They have this gigantic Sion, and they are just force pressing HLE into these fights and winning them.
I mean, this is what happens if you make a critical mistake. As Zeka made 2 in a row, the game can change just like that.
Look at this.
In this moment, he's just pushing midway here. Faker catches him with the max range Q. He has no flash. Then the wall comes up. He tries to realm warp his way out, but there's just too many threats. But you can see what happens when HLE's composition loses map control, loses vision control, and has to poke through waves, has to poke blind with the Jayce and the Ziggs. The Ziggs is using his ultimate to clear waves, but the wave still crashes. This game has turned on its head completely. Hanwha Life eSports still with a gold lead, but the control they had is completely gone.
Yeah, barely at this point, having the gold lead, and Doran with the Ocean Soul and the items he has, so hard to cut through. For so much of this game, it's been about Zeus being ahead of the curve, but now he has 4 items and a dig compared to 4 items of Doran. You're just not cutting through that Sion. You had a timer. Where you were so far ahead, you could deal with T1, you were ahead, everything was going for you. The map control was spectacular. And then a step too far, and suddenly HLE now staring down the prospect of an even kill game. Only 1,000 gold lead. And to lose a game 1 like this would be absolutely devastating to the mental. So definitely not over yet, but I feel like they have to find a better way to approach these fights. Try and get some poke onto the backline members, the critical members again. Because if they try and brute force through Doran, it's just never going to work unless he really oversteps.
Especially with the amount of nemesises that this team has, for some of these players, like Zeus versus Doran, you start to think, if I can't win with this lead, can I win at all? As Oner is going to avoid this engage.
They're going very hard into this Jarvan, and they should be able to take him down. Nicely done, just trying to utilize that. As now the TP is coming in, and this is Faker! He just TPs directly in the face of HLE and dies! Ryze, and now Peyz, really the main character here, trying to get away, but HLE are on the chase. The root comes down, and just like that, everything flips over again. Keria all by his lonesome gets taken down, and Doran trying to hold on to the wave, but they're TPing in. HLE want to end the game now.
The Light's going to try and stall him out as long as he can. I think you might know he'll stay alive for the time being, but all they need to do is stall. The rest of them have enough damage to close, and T1, who brought the game back from the brink, don't manage to close it out. Fumble at the last moment, and it's HLE with a decisive end to game one.
You've got to feel a lot of relief if you were a Hanwha Life fan. You can see on the players' faces not any celebration at those moments because they know they clutched it out in the end. They punished T1 hard, and Faker teleported into the entirety of their team.